All right, everybody, welcome to the Comic Wrestling Podcast. This is the Wrestling Ring. I'm Deadly Dave.
I'm Milky White Ace Williams.
Usually, yeah.
Look at my skin! It's like I got a reverse tan.
You're like powder.
Can you say that? I'm offended. Me too? Hashtag me too?
That's horrible. Well, this in the last episode, we talked about video games in the comic shop. So now we're talking about video games in the wrestling ring. Talking about wrestling video games.
Wrestling video games. Get out your ColecoVision, because here we come.
So let me ask you before I start.
No.
What's the first wrestling video game you remember playing?
Probably WWF WrestleMania.
Really?
I think that's... I got it over here. I got a bunch of them over here. I think... Don't Doink the Clown in it. And like Yokozuna, Shawn Michaels.
The arcade game one, yeah.
Yeah.
Where Doink had the joy buzzer and all that stuff.
I think that was the first one. I'm going to say yeah.
Yeah? That's a good game.
That
was back when they still had the arcade style to it, and they were trying to capitalize on Mortal Kombat a little bit.
Totally.
Totally arcadey.
The same style, exactly. Because even like the setup screens, like you got your main thing in the one corner, and then you'd have like your 4 guys this way and like 4 guys that way. I think that was the first one. And then there was a couple other ones around that time. Like there was a Royal Rumble one.
Yep.
I don't remember. They had a bunch of different offbeat games.
Yep. The first one I played was WrestleMania, the first one from 1989.
Yep.
It was the first one for the NES. It only had a few guys: Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Macho Man, Ted DiBiase, Bam Bam Bigelow, and Honky Tonk Man.
Bam Bam.
And a lot of people, I've actually had people say, why Honky Tonk Man? Well, you got to think that the game came out in 89, but they didn't start making it in 89.
Right.
They probably started making it in 87 and 88 when Honky Tonk Man was a huge heel.
Right.
So it's kind of makes sense that he was part of the game. You know? But those games, like that one, the WrestleMania Challenge, which I have here, if you can even actually see it. They were arcade style, but it was just mashing buttons.
Oh, that's all.
You know,
fighting games are. At that point.
It was. And the graphics were horrible. The mechanics were clunky. But being a little kid, you didn't care.
Yep.
You were playing as your wrestling heroes, and they were just fun games to play. Not now when you pick them up now and play them, but I would say the one I remember the most though was the Superstars arcade game. Because you had to pick a tag team. And you had to pick 2 guys, and you would just do tag team matches. And the graphics were really good in those games, actually, for being an arcade game back then. And then WrestleFest came out, and they added more people. And I liked that one a lot because they had Smash and Crush of Demolition, which was my
main. You go.
And they had a boss battle at the end where you had to fight the LOD.
Really?
Yeah, you couldn't play as the LOD. You actually had to fight them.
Even if you beat them, you couldn't unlock them?
Nope.
Oh, that pissed me off.
Yeah, that was the only bad thing about it. But let's see. Then you had the Super WrestleMania for the Super Nintendo. That also came out on Sega Genesis. That's when the graphics started getting better and the gameplay got a little better. They started doing the health meters and like the finishers and stuff like that. WrestleMania Steel Cage Challenge. You actually got me that as a plug and play. Which is, I was surprised that they re-released that, really. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't think they would do one with the WWF, feel to it and stuff. But I think that was the first one that had the steel cage in it too. It was hard to play, but I think that was the first one that had the steel cage. The Royal Rumble for the Super Nintendo, you were talking about that.
Yep.
That was the first one where you could use steel chairs as a weapon.
Oh, no way. That's cool.
But it also it was still the arcade, and it was, just cartoony, and the Genesis version had separate people like IRS and Jim Duggan, the model, and Papa Shango. WWF King of the Ring from 1993, the NES. It was the last one to have Hulk Hogan in it.
Okay.
Had Bret Hart, The Undertaker, the Narcissist, Lex Luger.
Boring. I just never he just never did anything for me.
Yeah.
Ever. Even when I go back and watch like old videos and shit, I'm just like.
I was actually surprised that they added him in a game. Like his character was never good. He had never had charisma in my opinion.
He's in the newest game.
Yeah. But this one that came out after that, WWF Raw.
Oh, I remember seeing that on the shelves when I was a kid.
This was the first one to have a female in the game as well.
Luna.
And every character had their own special moves, which is one of the first times they had their own special moves. They actually had finishers in this game. Yep. I think the gameplay really stepped up in this game. They really paid attention to it. Acclaim did a really good job on that game. I think it was the first one where Acclaim really paid attention to the gameplay more than just making it look good.
Yeah, I definitely remember going to the video store and seeing that.
Yeah, it was really over the top with the mega moves with like Doink with the hand buzzer. And I think Lex Luger just like threw guys in the air instead of doing the
I don't remember it. I know like Bam Bam Bigelow's was he would do the flying headbutt off the top rope, but he'd like turn into flames and then like go through you. I don't even remember. I know like Yokozuna, you could kick him in the gut and like pork chops would actually fly out. Like, how is that not offensive?
I think a lot of it is they were trying to do like blood from Mortal Kombat, but they couldn't
make
do blood.
Up for it.
So it was like I think Lex Luger like dumbbells would come out, like bleed out of his body when you would hit him sometimes, and Bret Hart hearts would come out.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. It was trying to capitalize on that Mortal Kombat 5 as much as they could.
Stay in their own lane while they did it.
In Your House was one that I never thought they would come out with because it was a throwaway kind of pay-per-view.
That's one of the ones I have over here.
But it was really cool because they had it's very cartoony, just like the WrestleMania games and stuff. But instead of typical wrestling arenas, they had personalized stages for each wrestler. Shawn Michaels had his nightclub, and they had Stu Hart's dungeon for Bret Hart, Crypt for The Undertaker. I don't remember what Vader's was. That was the only one I think they put Vader in.
I don't remember. I wish. Yeah, he is because he's on the cover of it.
But Owen Hart is in it. The British Bulldog, Goldust, Ahmed Johnson.
Yep.
Triple H. I think it was the first game that Triple H was in as well.
That's cool.
And then of course you get into the Attitude Era games.
That's what I have right over there is the WWF Attitude.
With Warzone and Attitude. Yeah, Attitude that came out in '99. But they came out for the PlayStation, for the Nintendo 64, and you can create a stable in Warzone. Customizable arenas. I think that was the first time they did customizable arenas. The Create a Wrestler was one of the first things that I noticed out of those games.
Yeah.
It wasn't as expansive as it would get later on, but just the fact that you could create your own wrestler in a video game was amazing.
Right.
And you couldn't do entrances yet, but you could create your own wrestler and put them into the storylines, which I thought was really cool. I think those were the first ones from. No, THQ didn't. The first ones for THQ was WrestleMania 2000. That's right. I think Acclaim was for Attitude and Warzone. Yeah. And then of course that license went to ECW, and they just kept the same engine.
So I never did play it in the ECW games.
Yeah, they just kept the same engine when Acclaim went to ECW, and they just changed the wrestlers.
The characters.
Yeah. I mean, you could even play as Joey Styles in those games, which I thought was pretty cool. And the fact that ECW actually got a video game license, was actually really cool. But the first one under THQ that I remember was WCW NWO Revenge.
I think. Oh shit! I forgot I had these over here. Yeah. I forgot I had these over here.
I think THQ did a really good job on the wrestling games. They really paid attention to the roster and the customizing of the games.
I did forget I had all these. WCW Nitro, Backstage Assault.
Backstage Assault, that one, all you were was in the backstage. There was no wrestling ring at all. It had commentary by Tony Schiavone and Bobby Heenan. Yeah, I don't know why they did it. It made no sense to me, but it was the last game they ever produced before they went out of sale, so I guess that kind of makes sense.
And it's a blue cartridge, if that means anything.
But I don't think the EA Sports, way of doing games was really a fit for wrestling anyways. They were I don't think they put any attention into it. They just didn't. It was a license for them to get a game out there.
To get a game out there that already had some recognition behind it.
But WrestleMania 2000 for the N64 really expanded the creator wrestler and all the match types. I think that was the first with a ladder match, the first one with a first blood match.
Oh shit.
Yep. And it had some of the WCW guys because THQ, well, not them, but their taunts and their moves and stuff, and because they brought that over from, I don't know how they were able to get away with it to bring it over to the WWF games, because you could copyright their moves and their likenesses and stuff. So I don't know why they never got sued for it. But
well, it's like WWE in their later games. I mean, Jesus Christ, you could have anybody that was hot in TNA in 06 through 2009, through those 4 years of wrestling games in WWE. You could create anybody that was hot in TNA at that point with, not their logos and stuff, but their intros. Like, they had their intros, they had their move sets, their taunts. So yeah, like you said, how they can do it, it's like, whatever, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, because WCW got sued for, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash kind of playing off of their characters, but not really. But you knew who they were.
The same mannerisms.
So it seems like you could get sued for using the move sets and all that stuff as well. You think that would be, intellectual property. But I think the greatest wrestling video game of all time, WWF No Mercy for the Nintendo 64. It expanded on everything that they had ever done in a wrestling video game. The ladder matches, the cage matches, the storylines, the unlockable characters. The creator wrestler, I think, is the most expansive up to that point, and I think it's better than the ones in the SmackDown games, to be honest. I just having the WCW wrestlers.
What do you mean in the SmackDown games?
Like, I think it's better, just the way you could customize them and the entrances and all that stuff.
You mean like this SmackDown game?
Yep. The PlayStation 2 ones.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that.
I don't know. Maybe it's just because I like the game so much, but the unlockables, the Royal Rumble matches, I think that it was a really good game. The last one to have Ken Shamrock in it, who was an unlockable character.
Well, at that time.
Yeah.
Because he's been in games since.
Yeah, but up to that point, and because he had just left at that point when they were making the game.
Right.
I think it's a really good game. I don't know. It's not one that you can just pick up and play, but once you've learned the mechanics of it, the grappling system in it, the finishers and all that, and you could. I think it was the first one where you could change the moves and the entrances of the main roster.
Oh, right. You don't have to leave them preset to
right? Yep. And you could change their finishers and all that stuff, and you can change pretty much everything about them.
About it, yep.
Yeah. And then THQ got into the SmackDown games. That went all the way up until 2011.
Well, they did, because they did SmackDown for PlayStation 2 and they did Raw for Xbox.
Yep.
They had their own brands.
And I thought that was really cool. The SmackDown name was actually pretty recognizable. That was in the vernacular. They got added into the dictionary, and I like those games. I thought the graphics were kind of...
I enjoyed them because it was a step up, because they had it... Well, they didn't go right into that. They had the PlayStation 1 ones, which was like... I know there's Just Bring It, there's Shut Your Mouth, and Here Comes the Pain. I think it was Shut Your Mouth was for the PlayStation. Or actually, I think I have... One of them was SmackDown 2, Know Your Role, so the other one must have been just SmackDown.
A lot of people will say that Here Comes the Pain is like...
Here Comes the Pain is like literally one of the best wrestling games of all time. It really is. I liked all of them. I liked the Raw ones, because the Raw ones had like Triple H and Goldberg on the cover of them from those times and stuff like that. The PlayStation 2 games, well, I was huge into those. I was huge into the SmackDown vs. Raw games when it transitioned from, I think it was Here Comes the Pain. I think that was the last one. Then I went to SmackDown vs. Raw
with Vince McMahon
on the cover, and then it just became SmackDown vs. Raw till...
And then they added ECW in 2008.
I don't even know when it changed, but it went to SmackDown vs. Raw and then just WWE 2K, whatever.
I think 2011 was the last year that it was SmackDown versus... Yeah, and then they went into the 2K. The only 2K game I've played was WWE 13 with CM Punk, and I love that one because of the Attitude Era. The roster on that was so amazing.
The roster, and it's immense. The only problem I had with it is because there were still TNA guys that were like Attitude Era, but they were under contract with TNA. So there's no Hardy Boys in it.
Yeah.
There's no Dudley Boys in it. There's no Kurt Angle in it, which is like, those are the fucking Attitude Era guys. But yeah, I mean, I had all of them for the PlayStation 2. Again, like most of my shit, I don't know where the hell it is. But I mean, I have 2013 through 2018 right here with, like you said, CM Punk on it. This one was 2014 with a reverse inside sleeve with The Rock, or it was Daniel Bryan, and I just thought, well, holy fuck, that's cool. Daniel Bryan can be on the cover of my game.
And that one was really cool because the Ultimate Warrior did the promo video for
did.
that. And it's funny how the 2K ones have kind of foreshadowed people coming back into the company.
Oh,
Ultimate Warrior, Kurt Angle, Goldberg.
Well, at that point, when it was Macho Man, when he did the video for them, that was Macho Man's like return back with the WWE, being like, we're on good terms. Same with Warrior, but then once it became like, oh, who can we bring back and who can we capitalize on, that's when it was. So there's no irony there at all. Like, your pre-orders determined, like, that's who it was. It was your pre-orders. Like, you could pre-order Batista, and then that year he was the one coming back. Goldberg, Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle. Like, they just, for this year's, I think it was this year's, you could get Ronda Rousey and Kurt Angle or something like that. And it's like, oh, good, 2 people that are leaving.
Yeah.
But the 2K15 one, I don't really remember it too much. This one introduced like Bray Wyatt and all the newcomers, like NXT guys and stuff. 2016, I remember it just because, Jesus Christ, how much more Austin do I have to have in my life? Like, this entire game is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yep.
It's a bit much. 2017, I rarely ever played because it's fucking super hard. It's just super hard. And then 2018, I play it here and there. There are a shit ton of legends in this game. I mean, so many people, all the fabulous Freebirds.
I think that's really cool about the newer games too, is they've included a lot of legends as the roster, and that's one cool thing about these.
There's got to be 100 plus people in here because you got a full Divas roster essentially. You got a full Raw, full SmackDown, full NXT, full fucking Legends roster if you wanted to. I mean, I remember in like the old, not these ones, but the SmackDown vs. Raw ones, when they would come out every year, I'd get them every year.
Yeah.
And I'd be so excited, like, oh, who's the unlockable this year? Who can you get? And like, it'd be a handful of people. But now it's just become like there's almost too many people in the game. Like, you should make, like, I always wanted them to make an ECW game under the WWE banner.
Yeah.
Like,
and you've got those licenses of their characters. I don't understand why you haven't.
Right.
And I don't understand why they don't do smaller games, less expansive. Just.
Well, that's what they did with the All Stars.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't do that more often.
Because they're not making as much money physical copy wise. That's why there's so many digital games. That they make, because those are essentially the one WWE Immortals. That looked like it could have been a full-blown console game.
Yep.
But there's not enough money into it because they did All-Stars, and like I have over there, Legends of WrestleMania, which that game was awesome.
Yeah, that was a really good game too.
That game was wicked fucking sweet. They had a lot of different, I wouldn't say that, a lot of different legends. A lot of legends you expect in it, but you could relive like every fucking WrestleMania and literally just replay everything that was cool back at that point with wrestling. But that was one of the 2 or 3 wrestling games like I've 100% completed. I've done everything there is to do in it. I don't even play it anymore. But that was one of, and I thought they were going to do one of those games like every other year because they have a wrestling game come out every year is their main one. And I figured, all right, they're going to have like a novelty wrestling game every other year. Like they did Legends of Wrestling, and then the next year it was the Superstars or whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah, I think it would be cool if they, because a lot of the stuff is online now.
Mm-hmm.
You could bring back the old games as a downloadable thing,
right?
And just upgrade them a little bit.
They did Marcadius got it. It was Rare, the company that did like Donkey Kong and like Banjo-Kazooie. It was a Rare Replay. That's what it's called, and it's got like 10 old school games. Yep. Amped up to the new versions, and it's like, yeah, why can't you do that with like your old 2-bit WrestleMania games?
And they don't have to blur out the WWF logo anymore. So,
which I never understood. Why did they, on the old DVDs, why do they blur out the Attitude Era WWF logo, but none of the others?
Because the Attitude Era logo was after the deal that they had signed.
Okay, so that was like you crossed the line using that one.
Yep.
Because I often wonder, I'm like, okay, the big block letters of WWF, I can still tell that says WWF.
Yep.
Okay, I've often wondered that. But
yeah, because part of the deal was that the content that you do after this, you cannot...
You can't promote it like that. Okay.
Yep,
okay.
You can't make money off it.
Right,
yep.
right.
Yep.
All right, I've often wondered that. I'm like, I just hated the Attitude Era, them fuckers.
Yep. The SmackDown ones you mentioned, trying to play and get everything. Mm-hmm. I loved doing that, just trying to unlock everything and do every storyline that you could in the backstage arenas.
Yep.
Exploring everything that you could. And
well, that's like the thing now. I mean, I'm not super far storyline with the 2018 one, but it's since I think it was maybe 2016, but I know it was 2017 in this one. You start in NXT. Yep. You're just a nobody jobber. You work your way up the ladder. Like right now, I'm on Raw. I think I'm on Raw, and like I'm just kind of floating around backstage. You'll see a couple of traditional WWE trainers like A-Train and shit like that, and then you'll see like other wrestlers. You go and talk to them, blah blah blah. The thing I still fucking hate in 2019 with these games. And they used to do it on like the SmackDown vs. Raw ones and some of these older ones. They actually had voiceovers.
Yeah.
I'm in 2019. I do not want to have to read dialogue from a fucking video game.
It's not an RPG, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah. Unless I'm playing an RPG.
Yeah.
Right, but my character, even if it's not the voice I want my character to have, he should be able to go up and, like, if you want to talk to Triple H, like you can, and be like, hey, Triple H, you see my last match? I should be able to hear a voice say that, and then I should hear Triple H be like, get away from me before you see a side of me you're not going to like.
And you already have those people at events.
Yep.
They're sitting around waiting for the show to start. You can't put them in a sound booth to do voiceovers for the fucking video game.
Even that, you can't go get the sound bites from previous...
Right, yep.
All the Raws, SmackDowns, pay-per-views and simulate the voicing into that.
You know that technology exists.
Oh, it drives me nuts. Because it bothered me in the first few SmackDown vs. Raw games. I mean, they didn't talk in these ones either.
Yep.
But for some reason, the SmackDown vs. Raw ones, the storylines really mattered in those.
Yeah.
And I remember especially when it was actually SmackDown vs. Raw, and you would pick a Raw or a SmackDown to go to, and you'd work that entire show, or you'd be the GM for which one, and you'd earn a trophy.
And they both were completely different.
Completely different. Yep. And so the dialogue was needed there, I felt, because if I was on one show, I'd want it to feel different than the other, and me reading it in my voice. But then they got away from it, and they actually did. They had, like, John Cena's voice. Like, they had all the guys' voices in them.
Yep.
And then they just got away from it again. It's like, you're putting so much fucking money into a video game, and you want me to spend so much fucking money on this video game. Why are you not putting more into it?
Yeah, take a couple people off the roster and do, the voiceovers.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
That bothers me. Other than that, I mean, it is kind of a fun game. I hate that in the new games you have to go into the main menu and turn the blood on.
Yeah.
It's a fucking game with a T on it, which means it's for teens. If you're one of these little, like, 12-year-olds that's saying, Mommy, can you give me the wrestling game? And you're the demographic and your parents are the ones that are saying, well, it's kind of violent. Tell me any video game that's not kind of violent.
Yeah.
Even Mario, you're killing things in it.
Yep. You're stomping on fucking turtles. And,
you're eating mushrooms.
Yep. There's fire, flying around. And
a fucking dragon steals a woman. Like, come on, he's going to rape her. Maybe we went too far.
But the 2K ones, I was excited to see AJ Styles on 2K19.
Yeah, I thought that was cool to have a TNA guy on the cover.
I never thought they would do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted, he's a huge, player for them. He's huge on their roster, but I didn't think AJ Styles is going to be, the cover person for.
Yep.
I figured Roman Reigns, who is this year with Becky
I'm surprised
Lynch.
Roman Reigns hasn't been on one till now.
Yeah, till now. Yep, with how hard they were pushing him. Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised when Shield was in the first game they were in. I think it was 2014. I'm surprised they weren't on the cover.
Yep. I think it would be cool if they did a retro style game with a lot of these new.
Because this one you can turn it on to be 8-bit, so it looks like.
Because the Superman punch and stuff like that is so perfect for an arcade style, game like that. I think.
Yeah, you can turn the graphics onto this so it looks like it's an old pixelated game.
Yeah,
but
I think the gameplay itself would lend it. Like the curb stomp and like the F5, just moves like that are just.
They've had a lot of knockoff wrestling games. backyard wrestling.
Yeah, the Legends of Wrestling games. And
the
stuff.
Legends of Wrestling.
Or Legends of the Legends of the Ring, I think that because they had Shivani and Bobby Heenan come in for those too. They pretty much plucked every wrestler that wasn't on the WWE roster at that point.
Yeah, they had Legends 1 and 2. They had a bunch of them, and I had them all for the PlayStation 2. If I found them, I would buy them. I loved them. They had a wrestling one where it was like Twisted Metal.
Yeah. The Crush Hour game.
Was that what it was called? Crush Hour?
Yeah, it was on the GameCube. Yep.
I remember Booker T and RVD were on the cover of it.
The only time they really did anything like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the only time. And I'm surprised they don't do it now with that stupid... The fuck is it? Where the little race car is kicking the soccer ball around.
Oh, the Rocket League one?
Yeah, I'm surprised, as much as they promote video games and shit, they don't do more outside of...
Yep.
The one breath that they take,
or try to get their characters into other games. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you said, Batista wanting to be in the Gears of War game.
Exactly, and I'm sure he couldn't have done that prior. Now that he's not in WWE, he can if they do that. I mean, they will be putting him in the game, but
yeah. This one though, I actually bought it a couple days ago. You know more about it than I do. TNA Impact.
Were you just buying it to be a kiss ass?
No, I actually do want to play it. I actually do. More cool than ECW getting a game, TNA getting a game.
It was awesome.
To me is one of the coolest things ever. That a company like that was fighting from behind actually got their own video game.
Yeah, and there's a lot of there's not a lot, but there's a good amount of superstars that are in that game. Have you played it at all?
Yeah, I played it a little bit. Yeah.
There's a lot of people. The introduction of Suicide.
Yeah.
That they turned into a real character. The last fucking boss fight in it, I don't know if I've ever been that mad. Probably. You go against Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah.
And it's the King of the Mountain. It's the hardest fucking fight that there is. That's probably one of the hardest wrestling games I've ever played. I had it for my Xbox 360. It looked amazing. I don't have it anymore. I don't think I have it anymore.
There was actually supposed to be a sequel,
That'd have been cool.
But then Midway got bought out, and then they took it off the list. So
I would have liked to have seen another one. It's very limited to what you can do, and even the intros are not as expansive as the WWE ones. You can't create, you can create a wrestler in it, but it's very. You can pick a shirt and a pair of pants, and they're already preset to what they're gonna look like. But say your intro, say you're playing as Booker T, it'll play maybe a 5-second intro.
Yeah.
Of him just doing this, and you'll hear his music, and then they'll show him in the ring, and then it'll fade away. It's not very in depth like that, but the wrestling is fun.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't feel. It feels arcadey. You're not. It doesn't feel like a WWE game. I don't know how else to say it unless you've played it. But it's cool to have Samoa Joe, Sting, Kurt Angle, AJ Styles, LAX, Bobby Roode, James Storm.
Eric Young is in it.
There's no women in it. Or no, this was on the Xbox 360 version. There was 2 bonus discs that came with it. Yeah. Shark Boy's in it. Christopher Daniels, I believe, is in it.
I mean, for just getting your feet wet into the the video game market, that actually is a pretty good game from what I've played.
It is decent. It is decent. It's just hard. It's one of the hardest games I've ever played.
It's like they were trying to get the license out there and see what they could do with it, and then Midway got bought out, so it
And it is cool to see them have their own game, because even here, a decade plus later, they still don't. There's not another one.
Yep.
So I mean, at that time in TNA, it was that was their peakest.
Oh yeah, they were on full cylinder at that point.
Never ever would they ever reach that height again.
To be honest, I'm surprised they never got another video game once Hogan came along. You would think that they would have capitalized
Especially
on that.
Hogan, because he likes to slap his name on anything.
Yep.
Oh, brother, we can do a wrestling game and I'll fucking be on the cover.
Yep.
Oh, that'll sell.
And you had a huge roster at that point, too, with Jeff Hardy and all
your
that.
legends you could have incorporated at the time, like Scott Hall, X-Pac, and shit like
the
that.
The Nasty Boys.
Yep.
It's a shame that they never got around to doing another one.
Yep.
Well, I mean, the company's still around, so who knows, but to be honest, I'm surprised Ring of Honor hasn't gotten a game yet.
I feel like they did. It was something...
I know their stars have been incorporated into New Japan games, but I don't know if they've had their own.
I feel like I saw something. It might have been a makeup thing. Someone made it up.
Or maybe they've had a mobile game or something. Maybe.
Yeah.
But, one that's kind of, it's not a WWE game. It's not a WCW game. Def Jam Vendetta. You can play as DMX.
Oh yeah.
You know, you could. I thought for what it was, you know, they actually do have a wrestling ring in some of it, and some of it you're fighting in the backstage. But it has a really cool storyline where you've got to fight. Your friend gets injured, so you're fighting for him.
Yeah.
And you pick one of 3 characters. It's the same storyline for each character, but they all have their different fighting styles.
Okay.
And I didn't play the sequel, but you get to play against all the rappers and
yeah,
stuff.
Yeah, what was it?
You know?
Def Jam Vendetta 2, Streets of New York or something like that?
Yeah, Fight for New York.
Fight for New York.
I thought it was a really cool game. The finishers are really cool,
Yep.
and I just think the storyline with the way they went about it, I think this is something they could still be doing.
Yeah, they don't do a lot of like not random, but they take risks on video games all the time because there's so many random ones out there. But it's like they don't stick with like a cult. That's like a cult classic for video games.
It is.
But it's just like, nope, shooting games, they sell.
Yeah. Instead of trying to go for a different market, you're going with what you know with, and
exactly.
You know,
because there was like ICP had their own backyard wrestling and shit, which I played that. I played the fuck out of that game. I used to really enjoy the backyard wrestling games just because they were so over the top and ridiculous, and I don't know. I did enjoy those. I really do though enjoy the old WWE games. Not the 2K ones are alright, but there's something off about all the games that it just doesn't. You're never gonna get the feel of natural wrestling in a game.
Yeah.
Because there isn't a natural, like if you and I are playing or not you and I, but if I'm playing by myself right now, and I'm just beating down the computer the entire match, because I'm that good at the game, then that doesn't feel like WWE TV to me.
Yep.
Because that's not how wrestling works. If you're doing a squash match, sure, you can go in there and do a squash match, but like I get bored playing with them because it's like, all right, I just beat down like 5 people in a row. Like I don't feel a challenge.
It was the challenge was creating guys as good as I could, you know, to make them look exactly as they. You know,
I just created an AEW arena.
That's cool.
The other day.
Yeah, I like that you can customize the arenas and make your own arenas and stuff now. That's really cool.
My fucking WWE 2013 one, that is probably the most in-depth video game wrestling wise I've ever put. I've got an entire TNA roster, an ECW roster, WCW roster with all rings. Every main show has a pay-per-view every week. There's a show every week or every day of every week. It's dated as like crazy now. The characters look like shit now, but I still will throw that one in and play it. And it bums me out because I didn't have online, so I couldn't get all the DLC guys, and there were a shit ton.
Yep.
From like Gangrel to Scotty 2 Hottie to I think Funaki.
Yeah, and playing those Attitude Era guys is so much fun.
Well, it just sucked because when I finally got online, it said that they were all free.
Yeah.
So I was like, yo, I'm going to get like 20 fucking guys. And it's like, nope, it's outdated. It won't like upload or download or whatever. So like, motherfucker.
Yep.
But WrestleMania 19, I wanted to mention that game.
Oh, yeah.
That was like, when I first got back into wrestling, like I had all the, well, whatever was up to date at that point. I had some of those wrestling games. But WrestleMania 19, when I got my GameCube, the cover of it, if I can remember it, had The Rock. Maybe it was just Kurt Angle. I think it was just Kurt Angle with his arms pointed up in the air with the fireworks. And then the WrestleMania 19 where they showed the big panned out image of the entranceway behind him. Something like that. But I know it was Kurt Angle. That was the first wrestling game I played like when I got back into wrestling.
Yep.
And in that there was like all your main people. But yet there were some of the ones that had been trailed out by that point of me watching the current product and then playing a 2-year-old game.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, who are these people and where the fuck have they been? It's like, oh, they're gone. Like Christopher Nowinski.
Yeah.
I think Ivory was in that game still.
Wow.
Which by that point she wasn't in any game.
Yeah.
There were a bunch of people. Like, I think that was Scott Steiner's first game that he was in for WWE. God, there were so many people in it, and it was like such a badass game. You were like, you worked your way up to get to WrestleMania, and then like you fuck up right like before you're supposed to, and they show Stephanie McMahon in her office, and she's got security guards throwing you out of the building, and then they just show you like looking at WrestleMania 19 from outside, and like your little character's like, I'm gonna get back in there next year, and it's like, wait a minute, next year is gonna be WrestleMania 19 again, because they didn't have an updated Mania by that point. But such an awesome game. You could fight in the mall.
Yep.
Oh my god, that game was so awesome.
I think THQ, as far as storyline, they really did well.
They were good
in all of their games.
Even the Day of Reckoning games were really good storylines. Like, I remember Day of Reckoning 1 had Ultimate Warrior in it as a downloadable, not downloadable, but unlockable character, and that was like a year or two even before the self-destruction of the DVD came out. So I was like, oh fuck, I wonder if like Warrior knew about that and got royalties for that.
Because he's all about that.
Right. And like, I remember unlocking Mick Foley in that. Like the GameCube games, it was just so weird to unlock people because you bought them.
Yeah.
You'd go to WWE shop and you could buy the people. Like you didn't. Same thing with now. Like back when it was, I don't remember what SmackDown vs. Raw it was, but you would go through and the legends that were in the game to unlock were actually incorporated in the storyline.
Yeah, and that made it more fun.
Right, yeah. So I remember the one, again, I don't remember what SmackDown vs. Raw it was, but I remember playing as my character and coming across Roddy Piper in the game, and I'm like, oh, sick, I'm going to unlock him as soon as the story arc with him and I is done. That's going to be awesome. And, but now it's like this, you play a bunch of matches and you earn points.
Yeah. And
then you take those points and you go and you buy belts, you go buy arenas, you go buy, which is fun. But again, there's no, other than going and buying the characters, I have no reason to replay the level, like I want to go and have to beat a challenge to unlock somebody. Like, I remember there was one game you had to specifically beat challenges, and then you'd unlock the wrestler, and then you'd have to fight the wrestler and beat him and then unlock him. I want that! I don't want to just have to go and like, all right, I just had a 5-star match, I got 5,000 points, I can go buy a wrestler.
Yep.
And there's so many of them in this game. There's got to be like 30 different legends in this new game. It's like, oh my god.
That's the one good thing about the new ones is that it's so expansive that you can have so much memory that you can put that many people in it.
Yeah, there's a lot. I remember. Even
the THQ games had a lot of people on the roster.
They had a good amount. They never exceeded more than like 50 people though.
Yeah.
This is literally, it's got to probably have close to 200 people in it. That's ridiculous. And I mean, you got to think that's all WWE Monday, like Raw, SmackDown, NXT guys, the legends, the divas. Like I said, I mean there's probably 20 to 30 people per brand.
Yeah, and they'll probably start incorporating the NXT UK guys and stuff too.
I think Dunn is in this.
Is he?
I think Pete Dunne is in this. Tyler Bates definitely in it. Right, that was his name?
Yep.
There's a lot of NXT guys, like people I didn't even know about. Sawyer Dawson Sawyer, something like that. I guess he was originally with
Sawyer Fulton.
Yeah. He was originally with Sanity.
Yep, he's in Impact now. He's with Sami Callihan.
Okay, because he's in this, and I just literally was like, you know what? I don't know anything about this guy. I've never played him. I've never played as him, against him. I'm like, let me just beat the shit out of him. And he came out to Sanity's music and shit. I'm like, what?
He was originally in, I think, before they brought Killian Dane in.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he got released, yeah.
Okay, there's a couple other people from NXT that I'm like, okay, you clearly are not there anymore.
And they just keep adding DLC and, you know...
Which, that's the thing, like, make one fucking game that you have a bunch of DLC for. Not make a game every year. Make this one specific game, and then next year, instead of making a new one, have an updated roster that I can download into this game, have updated arenas that I can download into this game.
Yep.
I don't understand why they can't do that. Mike Ballard and I, we used to have, holy shit, we used to play these wrestling games like crazy, and he'd get online and he'd figure out how to create wrestlers, and then he'd put them on a memory card, and I'd take it home, and I'd save whatever wrestlers I didn't think I could create better
Yep.
on my memory card.
Yeah, that's the thing now is you can go online and somebody has made the person look perfect.
And just download
it, yeah.
Which I used to do that. I've done that with a couple of people. Like if I couldn't justifiably do them to where it's like, well, if you turn your head and it's like, nope. If you can't get who I just tried to create right off the bat, then I'm gonna not do it. So.
And it was always fun to like characters that you created in your head as a kid to make.
I never did that.
No. I always did.
I never looked at, and I know Nick does it. I know he does. I never looked at people creating like weird characters in a wrestling game. Like to me, I've always had that mindset of if you're playing a wrestling game, you obviously have some sort of like reality to it. Like I've seen people when I used to go on those creative wrestling websites for wrestlers, and there's someone that created like a 6 foot tall, all black demon with like big wings.
Oh
and
yeah,
shit.
I wouldn't do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Mine were reality based. They were
Okay.
just characters.
Right.
Kind of like mid '90s. Just
what
like,
could have worked?
Yeah,
like a pizza chef or something. Okay.
Like I did a surfer. Just stuff like yeah.
That I get.
Not weird.
But they put that shit in the game where you can make pretty much someone from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah,
it's like, why would you want? I mean, I get it because you're playing as like a character that looks cool, but like, say I created Sub-Zero in my WWE game, I'm not gonna be able to play as him. There's no fucking moves in the game that let me shoot ice out of my hands.
Yeah. Yep.
So at that point, why did I make this guy? I mean, I have made in the WrestleMania 19 one, I made the Punisher, but it was just his name was Just Castle, and basically like what you did if he was a wrestler.
Yeah.
And he's just in a black singlet with black trunks on with just the white Punisher skull on.
But it's not over the top.
No, right.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Yeah, I understand that.
And that concept I get. Like, I want to make an Owen Hart, or not an Owen Hart, but I want to make a Hart sister. So I'm going to make a female wrestler and have her based in my own reality that she was like the Hart sister. It's like, all right, I could get, like, because I used to do shit like that. Like, when I had my action figures, I would have, like, all the new Jack-specific ones, and then I'd have some of my old school, like, the rubber.
Yep.
And I had a Billy Gunn one when he was the one Billy Gunn. So he didn't have any Mr. Ass shit on him. He was wearing pink. He had the blonde highlights, and he was just one of my favorite toys. Just one of my favorites. So I had him as... Now, I wasn't ripping Rocky V off, but his name was Tommy Gunn.
Yeah.
And he was Billy Gunn's brother. The one that, no one knew about, and when Billy Gunn had to retire, Tommy Gunn came into the picture.
That's cool.
So I get that based on reality mindset, but to create, like I said, to see someone create a monster that's just 6 feet tall, not even 6 feet tall, like 8 feet tall, arms on it like this.
Yeah.
The attributes are through the roof.
Making like Goro from Mortal Kombat.
Seriously, right. It's like that. This looks stupid.
Yeah.
I mean,
to me, you're creating a wrestler. You're not just creating somebody just for
right.
the fuck
Create
of it.
something like if you're gonna create something like that, go play a game like Mortal Kombat. Where I don't know if you can create people in that anymore, but
right.
Some of them you can.
Like if you want to create Spider-Man just because you can create him, I never understood the appeal.
Which
of that.
I could get that, but I wouldn't do Spider-Man in his Spider-Man outfit.
Right.
I would do Spider-Man in the outfit he wrestles in when he wrestles Bonesaw.
Yep. That would be cool to make Bonesaw, but yeah.
I wanted to try to make a Bonesaw Macho Man Lego, but I was like, I don't know how I would do that. Because I made so many like little random people that it's like, holy shit, like this looks just like him. Like I got my Jeff Goldblum, my Kevin Feige are over here, and they're like going over lunch, and in my head it's them discussing Thor Ragnarok.
Right.
They're like, yeah, you're gonna be in Ragnarok? Oh, yeah, sure.
And that stuff's fun to do. Yeah.
It is. I live in my own weird, sad little head. But
what would you say is the most fun one you've ever played?
The most fun one? I don't know if I've got the most fun one, but the one I've gone back to and played the most is definitely 2013 with Punk on the cover. I remember sitting at my girlfriend's house, and I think I was watching Raw at that point. I think I was up to date on everything. And I was on YouTube, and I saw they just were at, like, the video had just dropped for that. And I was like, oh, cool, the new wrestling game. Like, I get them every year. Like, let me see what this one's about. And it starts off with, like, CM Punk talking about, like, a revolution. And then it shows you all the Attitude Era shit. I remember sitting on her couch, and I was like, whoa, this is fucking... I can't wait for this fucking game. And it was everything that it was hyped up to be. I mean, the fact that Mike Tyson, I have him as a DLC in the game because he's right there.
Yep.
Like, I got Mike Tyson in my Attitude Era game. Like,
and that's one thing that 2K, they
awesome.
do pay attention to what the fans want. And
THQ.
It was THQ then, wasn't it? Yeah. But, yeah, they really pay attention to what the fans want more. I think more than WWE does.
Well, WWE doesn't really get a whole lot of say in this. I mean, they do, because they're owning it.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to, like, the video game company, they can pretty much do whatever they want, because at the end of the day, they can say, well, we're not going to do your game.
Yeah, they're really just licensing it.
Yep. But, yeah, 2013, I know, God, WrestleMania 19, I played that one so much until I got SmackDown vs. Raw, the first one, which I think came out in 2004.
Yep.
But then those games, even after they were still SmackDown vs. Raw, they started to lose the reason why they were SmackDown vs. Raw. They stopped becoming, because they used to be like cross-brand, like we got a feud, SmackDown vs. Raw, and then it just became a typical wrestling game. But I do think it was in 2006 or 2007, you could create your own locker room, which was just fucking awesome.
Yep.
You could have a huge locker room. You could have giant banners that say ECW, SmackDown, Raw. You could have pay-per-view banners in your locker room. You could have, I remember my locker room, because I would change it probably every few months, it looked like inside of a log cabin.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved that shit.
And random stuff like that is really fun when they add stuff like that.
Right, yeah, I can go in here and I can create my universe, but once I create my universe to the way I like it, I just spent ample amount of hours, literally, all right, I'm going to take you from Raw, put you on SmackDown, I'm going to change the color of the ring ropes, I'm going to change it all to my liking. What do I do from there?
Yep.
Because WWE now owns so many TNA guys, you are so limited on what you can create. Because that was the appeal before AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and all of them were there. Was like, I'm going to create all of them and put them in a game.
And if they keep putting legends in, you're like, well, fuck that. I was going to create him too.
Exactly. And then when they have all the NXT guys on there, it's like, well, I don't need to create fucking Roddy Strong because he's in the game. He's in this game. Adam Cole is in this game.
That's awesome.
O'Reilly and Fish are in this game. I can't only imagine who's in the newest one.
It's probably gonna
Velveteen Dream.
Yeah.
Lars. I can only imagine probably Aleister Black. All those people, which they'll still be in, even though they're on the current roster now, they'll be in the NXT roster in that game.
Can you still use your own music for the entrances and stuff for people that you
Not on my 360, only because without having the internet, I can't put my own music on it.
I haven't played any of the new ones.
Yeah, I'd imagine you can.
Because that was one of the coolest parts, is being able to use your own music for the...
Oh, absolutely. When I created my guy, I think it was on this... I don't know which one it was. But they actually added Glens Falls, New York.
That's cool.
And as a hometown that you could be, and from Glens Falls, New York. So I was like, oh, cool. It's making it even more realistic. There's some things I wish they would do. I don't know if you have a faction of 4 people, say you have Undisputed Era. You got O'Reilly, Fish, Strong, and Cole.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have a 4-person intro, but they've always had a tag team.
Yeah.
Or they've had maybe 5 or 6 different templates that you could pick from, where it's been a classic trio coming out. But that was a problem I always used to have, because when I would make the NWO in my games and shit, it'd be well, I'm really only going to make it Hall, Hogan, and Nash, because that was the 3-person set that they would have. And all you'd have to do is figure out, all right, well, if Nash is coming out on this side, I have to figure out how I'm going to place him in the stable so he comes out to do the Nash, doing this.
Yeah.
Because it would be Hogan coming out with the guitar in the middle. You just have Nash doing the, Too Sweet sign, and then Razor Ramon, you would tell it was him because he would pull the fucking toothpick out, and he'd walk like this. That's the only problems I ever had, where it was it's expansive, but it was still very limited.
Yep. And you're looking for those things to grab your attention and to keep you wanting to play it.
Well, when I was making the AEW arena the other day, like it's still you can go crazy with making the arena. And I don't really think my AEW arena is anything to brag about. I just was really bored.
Yeah.
And just was like, you know what? I'm just gonna make one. Fuck it. I'm gonna go back and redo it with the actual logo. Like I'll actually make it look a little bit better, but yet like WWE version essentially. But that's like the cool thing now is you can actually change like the size of. You've always been able to change the size of your venue when you're making an arena, but this time you can like actually change your arena. Like you can be outside, you can be inside with a dome, you can be in a high school gymnasium.
That's cool.
So it's like, all right, well when I do ECW, high school gymnasium all the time.
You could create CTWE if you wanted.
Exactly, you really could. It's pretty cool like that. But when I was creating the belt, which I love my AEW belt. It looks nothing like the real title they have. It looks like I don't have the belt here or a belt here with me, but it's got 4 side plates, 2 on each side. On this side, it has Gold Dust logo that says "From Dust to Dust," and the way the metal is, it looks like it's like engraved into the metal, and then it's got a picture of Dusty Rhodes in the polka dots. With just his fist like this, and I kind of like faded it into the metal to make it look like it's over top of the writing, but still part of the metal as well. You know how TNA? No, they didn't really do it on that. But you know how like TNA when they do their posters, they'll make them look really gritty.
Yeah.
They'll like I don't even know what they saturate it almost. That's what I did to the Dusty Rhodes, so it looks like it's a worn down piece of metal.
That's sick.
And then, so say you're looking at the belt this way, and here's Dusty Rhodes' logo. On this side plate, it is one of the original WCW logos, and that's kind of like faded away to make it look like that was the past. And then in the center plate, I think it just has like a normal preset. It just says like champion, like with a banner. And then like I went through and like wrote AEW on it and like made the letters look like they go with what they're supposed to. And then on the other side, the other belt is the AEW logo looking like, well, I guess it kind of looks like it's fading too, but in my head it would look like it was, as the WCW logo was fading, the AEW one was kind of coming through.
Yeah.
They're all the same, like nothing, there's no color in it, it's all like the same metal mesh color. And then on the other side was the Gold Dust saying "From Dust to Dust," but then it was a picture of Gold Dust on that side, like faded out like his dad and shit like that.
That's really cool.
There's no Cody Rhodes in the game, so you can't do anything Cody Rhodes with it. But to have those two and just, I'm like, you know, it's Cody Rhodes' company essentially, without me really making like an elaborate logo.
Yeah, and that stuff's fun when you can be creative like that.
But yet, still keep it, like if you saw it without me explaining it, you would get, okay, that's an AEW logo, and I get why you put Dusty and Gold Dust on there. It's not like, oh, you made an AEW logo and then you put Dolph Ziggler on there and Shawn Michaels because their finishes are super kicks. Oh, okay, I guess that connects with the Young Bucks and super kick parties. Like, it's not a stretch. It's, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah. Yep.
And I just was like, you know, that'll work for now. Like, if I change it up again at some point, I will. But if not, I got an AEW championship.
Yeah.
But when I was doing the name of it, I just have it as AEW Championship, and you can actually go through and pick out preset names that Lillian or whoever the announcer would say, like All American Wrestling. Like if you pick those 3 words, that's what they would say. So I'm like, I'll just pick AEW, like the letters.
Yep.
Nothing. Like, to me, and that was the thing that used to bother me, like when you'd go through and you're like looking for your name or something, have the letter of every have the letter from the alphabet as a choice. Like, say you're doing A. Your first letter on the name is going to be A, and then there's Albert, Alex, and then like maybe 20 names under the name of A. And then have the letter B.
Yep.
So if you want your initials to be BBXY, for whatever the fuck that could stand for, you could do that.
Yeah.
Like mine, when I used to do it, they didn't have Williams in the games. It was just Ace. So I would always do Ace W. And they would say Ace W. And then when they got William, I went from Ace W to Ace William. And then when they eventually, it's like, how do you just finally say, let's put Williams in there? We got, like, how when I'm making a list of names to be in a game, I'm probably going to be like, let's throw all of these in there.
Yeah.
Like, when I first made Cowboy James Storm, I was like, I can't believe, like, I can actually get them to say the Cowboy James Storm. Or A-double Austin Aries. Like, when I had them first say that, I was like, that's
fucking awesome.
Awesome. So when I went to do the AEW Championship belt and I couldn't get the letters A, E, and W, I'm like, well, what am I going to go with? I literally think I went with All Eastern Wrestling.
Yeah.
Because that's like the closest thing. Because the only other E's you get are like Extreme. And I think that's it. I think it's like Eastern, European, and Extreme. And I'm like, well, they're not European and they're definitely not like labeled Extreme, so I'm just going to go with Eastern. So it's like there's some stuff that you could do that's like, oh, this is so cool. And then it's like,
frustrating.
I have the All Eastern Wrestling title. Like, that's not even a thing.
I made it so cool, and you had to ruin it.
Yeah, seriously. It's like, fuck.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Right, exactly. Yep. Like, damn this! But that stuff, I mean, I do. I love the wrestling games. I'll always get them.
Yeah.
I don't get them the day they come out anymore. Because I wasn't invested. When I bought 2K17, this one, I just was like...
You were just getting it to...
Well, I was getting it because I was excited for it, and I was ready to play a new game, and then once I played it, I was like, oh, I don't like the way it feels, I don't like the mechanics of it, and then I bought this one for $10 used. I was like, yeah, even if it's shit, it's $10. I love it. I really do enjoy this one quite a bit. It's a lot of fun.
And they're just going to keep adding more and more to it. And
there's so many legends. Like, I'm trying to think of all of them right now. Like, almost everybody but Owen Hart from the Hart Foundation is in it.
And that's because of his wife, unfortunately.
Jesus, there's so many people in the game. Like Hogan, there's like 4 or 5 different Stings, which at that point I've always bitched about this. Why do they need to be different separate characters that's just taking up a slot for somebody else?
Yeah.
Why can't it just be an alternative outfit?
Yeah, like the older games where it was alternate out, just
right.
Alternate
That's
outfits,
how it used to be, and then they did a Hogan. I think it was for this one. They had a Hogan like exclusive one where he's in it, but if you pre-ordered it, you ended up getting like 2 more Hogan characters. Like you got like I think Thunder Lips, and someone else, like Hogan back when he was in AWA maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I think those were the 2, but the game was focused around Hogan. So even if you didn't have that, you have the regular version like I do. You have like 4 different Hulk Hogans in it, and it's like Hulk Hogan 89 and Hulk Hogan 88 are the same dude. They just wear a different bandana essentially. Like if you're doing Hogan 89 and Hogan 93, then they're totally different looking. Like they look so fucking different.
Because he wasn't juicing at that
point.
Right,
exactly. So I get the characters are different. But like when you have like Sting, I get it. Sting is a modern one. Like you get the TNA essentially Sting. Yeah. You get the regular Crow Sting. You get the Wolfpack Sting. I think you get another Crow Sting that was just a different year, and then you get 2 like Surfer Stings.
Yeah.
It's like, why do they have to be slots? Why can't I just press over and get a different outfit?
Wouldn't it be easier that way to just to develop the game, development of the game to do it that way?
They did it with Hall and Nash. You got Diesel, and then you got Kevin Nash. You got Razor Ramon, and then you got Scott Hall. It's like, they're the same fucking dude.
Yep.
Like,
you tell me you can't put it in the program where you just, slide to the side and change the name and the outfit. And,
exactly. Like an alternative outfit like my guy has. Like I don't have 5 of the same created character wearing 5 different outfits. I have 1 created person with like 3 different outfits.
And stuff like that makes you scratch your head like, didn't you guys think of this shit? Like,
Yeah, well, just kind of thinking this with the names. When I was listening on the podcast the other day, I don't remember who they were talking about, but they were talking about Chris Jericho. The whole podcast was about Chris Jericho. And then somebody, I don't exactly remember what, but somebody coming to the WWF with the name Chris and needing to change it because there's too many Chris's in the company and this, and that. It's like, And I guess Vince's reasoning was, well, you can't have two people with the same name. It happens. I mean, Jesus Christ, you got Vince Russo and Vince McMahon working in the same company at the same fucking time.
Yeah, Steve Austin, Steve Blackman.
Right. I mean, you had a guy, Stone Cold Steve Austin, change his name. I don't know where I was going with that. I don't know. No, but it's just stupid because and it instantly made me think, because it was the other day, instantly made me think of the video games of how at one point there was all in one row. There was Chris Nowalski, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, Christian, and I know there was a fifth Chris. I know there was. All in one fucking row, selecting the video games, and because I used to remember back in the day, going through that, I'm like Chris, but it's like you can't have that many of the people in the company with the same name, but I don't know.
Yeah, I thought it would be a cool subject to cover because, as a wrestling fan, you got excited for the games.
Oh, yeah. I loved it. When I would buy the games, I would fucking go and, right after school, I remember getting 2000 SmackDown vs. Raw 08, I think it was. I was so excited for it. I get home, I'm playing it, and it had the longest loading screens I've ever experienced.
Oh, yeah, I remember
in my life.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there, looking at Carlito because he was the screensaver. And I'm like, if this game fucking froze on me, I'm going to be pissed. I'm going to be so mad. It's the one thing I've been looking forward to. Here it is. Now it's not going to work. And it probably took 10 minutes for it to load and everything like that. And then once, I was like, yes.
Yep.
But real quick, there was one of the SmackDown vs. Raw games I wanted to mention where it was tag team centric. DX was a tag team in the game in the storyline. Batista and Rey Mysterio were a tag team in the storyline, and the Hardy Boys were a tag team in the storyline. What a waste! Because never in that game are you actually playing it as a tag team. Yes, you are, but you're always playing as, I don't know how I want to say it because I was thinking of it the other day when I was thinking of this shit. It should have been anybody. You should have been able to pick anybody and play as a tag team with anybody. I shouldn't have had to have been DX or Batista and Rey Mysterio or the Hardy Boys.
Yeah, it should have been preset. Yeah.
Right, because they were making that game a big deal to. I feel like I remember the trailer of them being like, you can pick your tag team partner and take over the world kind of deal.
Yep.
And it was just when you finally got into that storyline, it was like, oh, it's only 3 storylines with these 3 tag teams. And I didn't care for Rey Mysterio and Batista.
Yeah. And they never really were a tag team. They did stuff together, but they never really were a legit tag team, yeah.
Yep.
It's like, oh, these 2 guys are popular, and we've had them tag a couple times, so we'll do that. Yep.
And the Hardy Boys had just come back, so let's capitalize on that. And that was actually the first game. Jesus. The first game, for one, that Triple H and Shawn Michaels were ever on together.
Yeah.
But it was the first one Shawn Michaels was on since, the arcade games, maybe?
Yeah.
I used to really, get excited about, oh my god, The Miz is on the cover of the game? I can't believe The Miz is on the cover of the game. Because there's, if you watch wrestling interviews, not a lot of them, but a bunch of them will say, the big to-dos are to have your own to be in a video game and to have a toy.
Yep.
Those are man, once you've done those 2 things, you made it kind of deal.
Yep.
So I couldn't believe, when The Miz was on the cover of the game. Of course, it wasn't just him. It was the Big Show and John Cena. When John Cena was on the cover of this one, I was like, why? You just had Sting. Sting is your big DLC in the game. Why is there not an alternative version where I can get Sting on my cover? Like this one. When I opened this up, and I was like, whoa, Daniel Bryan is
yeah,
an alternative, fucking thing. Of course I'm going to have Daniel Bryan on the outside of
Or
my
you might
case.
get people that want to buy both because they want both covers. You know what I mean?
This was the Hogan one where he was all over it. But yeah, it's just... Who else? This year, I think it's cool that Becky Lynch is on it. I think she should have been on it by herself.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it really would have meant more for a woman to be on it.
And you don't need to throw Roman Reigns on anything. It really is stupid.
It is. It's just kind of funny now because the way I think it's oh, now there's a Roman Reigns video game cover or or a Seth Rollins, but no Dean Ambrose.
And but probably never will be.
Probably not. But I mean, it's cool to have like Punk on one. Austin, I didn't feel like, oh fuck, blah, that just bores me. He really does, like.
And they don't really mention him a lot anymore. Really, I mean, and he's been in the focus of a lot of the video games, and they don't. Mm-hmm. I mean, he came back to that Raw just to sell his fucking
his beer,
you know. And for the amount that company did for him, and now they hardly even mention him, and he doesn't talk about them when he does interviews and stuff. He doesn't talk about his wrestling career anymore.
I mean, he talks about wrestling, but not like that. Because I watched this video where he was eating hot wings with this guy, and they were interviewing him while he's doing it. And he's talking full-blown wrestling and stuff, but he's not talking... Not reminiscing, almost. Not, like, glorifying... I don't want to say himself, because I don't want him to talk about himself, but he's not advertising it like it was a big deal. Yeah. He's just like, it's just wrestling.
Yeah, it was a throwaway,
Yeah, and it's like... In me, it's hard for me as a fan now... It really is, to watch certain things like that and to still have the same love for it because there's no kayfabe. Internet has ruined wrestling, 100%. Like, before there was the internet, really, I mean, there was always internet since the 90s. But before that, or even then, it was still like, let's keep everything on the lowdown. If shit gets out, then it gets out. But there was a mystique about wrestling.
And plus, they're showing you on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, every aspect of their entire life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no secrets, there's no nothing. You know, like, you wouldn't have known Andrade and Charlotte were going out. I mean, you would from the dirt sheets, but not everybody would know about it. Right. Now, everybody knows every aspect, you know.
Which it's hard to me, that would be hard to be like, how do you stay in character?
Yeah.
Like... I get it. Back in the day, like, say someone like Earthquake, you see him out in public, and that's the only time you see him other than on TV. And for himself, it may be a 5-minute walk by you. He'll, here, fuck you, little kid, like, be in character or something. And that's easy for him to do. And then next thing you know, he could be just walking away and not have to be in character because whoever's looking at him and knowing who he is has passed. Now it's every time I see Triple H not being Triple H, I lose so much interest in that character.
Yep.
Like, he just did the up, up, down, down.
Yeah, with Xavier Woods.
Which, I like Xavier Woods, but...
But then if he goes on TV and he's busting on the New Day or, you know...
Or being a bad guy, it's like... Where the hell... It's a work, and now I know it's a work. Like, that's annoying as fuck to me. Because I have, like I said, that mysticism is gone of like, I wonder what they're like outside of the real world. Because I remember being a kid saying this to my buddies, like, when we used to think Kane and Taker were brothers.
Yep.
We'd be like, what do you think, like, Thanksgiving dinner's like with those two? You know?
Yep.
You know, and that was like a fun thing to think about as a little kid.
Yep.
And now to hear Bruce Pritchard say that, because I was listening to the CM Punk podcast again, and their Conrad's asking him, you know, who are the guys that are like big drinkers or whatever, that Punk had to be around, you know, if it was difficult, or however he worded it. And Pritchard was mentioning a couple guys, and he goes, Kane might have drank maybe once in a while, but he wasn't a big drinker or nothing. Now, not that I've ever perceived Kane to be a drunk,
right?
But it's just like, you're watering down his, like, scarier side. Because, like I said, not that I'm picturing him to sit around and just be a binge drinker.
Right.
But it's like when you say it, like, he'll probably have a drink here or there. It's like you make him sound like a pussy. Not saying people that only drink once in a while are, but when you have this preconceived concept of, like JBL, okay? Perfect example. When JBL was either Hawk Bradshaw or whatever the fuck his name was, when he was Blackjack Bradshaw, or when he was Bradshaw, or when he was JBL, the wrestling JBL, it didn't matter. Any of those three characters, I never portrayed him as like a punk or like weak. Like, this guy's straight up going to punch you in the fucking mouth. Yep. And then you hear stories about that.
Of him being a bully, yep.
Right, whether it was an intentional or not, he still has that capability of being an asshole. And then you listen to his commentary and how dumb he sounds,
yeah.
how weak. I don't think it's him. I think he'll say whatever is being told to him to say.
Yeah.
So I don't put it on him as like he's degrading himself, but he degrades himself essentially like, Rey Mysterio's the man. He's the one that retired me. That's not how you looked at it in the moment.
Yeah.
You were pissed off. Like, bent out of shape that he retired you.
You should be pissed every time he walks through the curtain.
Every fucking time.
Yep.
And it takes away. Like, when I used to listen to him on the commentary, I loved it at first because it was so different. But when I've gone back and watched it, I'm like, wow. Like, when they say, people say Bret Hart going to WCW, he didn't ever amount to anything there, kind of hurt his career. And they say things about superstars that do stuff like that, like retired wrestlers that don't know when to stay retired and they look like shit. Goldberg, essentially, it's hurting their career. I looked at that like JBL. I was like, you should have been someone's manager.
Yeah. Or like Taz. Like, at first when he was with Michael Cole, he was in character. He would, he would bitch at him and he would yell at him and stuff. And then it was just like, Rocket Buster, and he was being all goofy and shit. I'm like, no, man, be the fucking human suplex machine on commentary.
Yep. And then he became a joke.
Yeah.
But the problem was, the writing was good at the time. And he was entertaining because Michael Cole was just so fucking boring.
Yep.
Like, personally, I love listening to Taz when he would be like, it's a fucking, not fucking, but, like, he'd fumble over his words and be like, you know what I'm trying to say,
But he still had an edge to him
yeah,
at that
he
point,
did, he did.
And then they just watered it right the fuck down.
Yep. And when we went to TNA, he was great.
Yeah.
He was back at mid-2000 Taz.
Him and Tenay were a really good team.
I don't understand how Tenay never got brought into WWE.
I know he's completely shut off from the business now.
Is he really?
Yeah, he has nothing to do with it anymore, yeah.
That's crazy.
Because he could be in AEW, he could be announcing for them, or
exactly.
MLW or somebody,
Yep. But, it darkened so you can see us better. I wonder when that happened. I haven't looked at the camera at all today, really. Hi! Hello, our fans, our dedicated fans out there that are watching here and watching all over. I wanted to say hi.
I don't know what the next topic's going to be. Maybe we might do the Attitude Era show with Steven. I'll get in touch with him, and because he's all about it. He said whenever, just give him a time and,
Okay.
So
let's give him a time and a date, and we'll give him the wrong directions. Just kidding. Won't do that. Well, baby, Dusty Rose wants to tell all of you, thanks for checking out the Comic Podcast, Wrestling Podcast, baby. I get a lisp every now and then, and I can't get the words out of my mouth the right way. But what you can get out of your way right now is going to any of the podcast channels that these guys are on and downloading their podcast, and get that out of the way now, baby, so you can listen, watch, learn, interact, and have some fun, sweet daddy.
And even win prizes.
You can win prizes, surprises, baby.
I don't think we could end any better than that.
I don't know if that was the ending or not, but hey.
So I'm Deadly Dave. He's Ace Williams. Thank you so much for checking us out.